All right, we've come to the fourth of our four videos on the regions of the world. Keep in mind, again, these are perceptual regions and they could be divided in many ways, but these are the ones that I want you to be primarily concerned with. So let's look at the regions of Asia. In Asia, the four primary regions we're going to look at are Central, South, Southeast, and then a combination Southwest or the Middle East. Sometimes people call it Southwest Asia. It's good to know that Southwest Asia equals Middle East. So Central Asia, a place that we know little about often because, again, not a lot happens there that Americans are concerned about, but a very important area strategically and a place to know about. Also sometimes referred to as the stands because it's an easy way to remember Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Turkmenistan. And notice that Afghanistan is just to the south and shares many, northern Afghanistan shares a lot of these cultural attributes of these regions, former Soviet republics, all of them. So population is high growth, but also pretty. The growth is moderated by high infant mortality and still high death in childbirth among women. But the birth rate is pretty high there. There's also pretty high disease rates. So while it is high growth, that is moderated somewhat by the negative conditions that they live under. All of these places are definitely less developed countries, consist of a lot of subsistence farmers. There is some mineral wealth in these places. There are small pockets of things like oil, but they are landlocked. Although you see that Turkmenistan and the others have access to water, but it's not water that gets them to the open water. There on the lower left. The religion in all of these is primarily Islamic. And particularly fundamentalist breed of Islam that tends to not treat women as equals and has some connotations to it that tend to hinder economic development. Their language, this is one of those that's actually part of the Altaic language families, and there are many languages spoken, and each of these countries is culturally a little bit different and has its own language. So it's Altaic family, the Turkic language branch, and it's Kazakh, Tajik, Kyrgyz, other languages like this that are rarely taught in the United States. Let's move on to South Asia. South Asia would be the southern part of Asia. India is sort of thought of as being the anchor of South Asia. Some of these bordering areas you're going to see in other regions as well. But so this is what we look at when we talk about South Asia. The population is high growth. The economies are less developed, although in the case of a place like some of the places, India in particular, growth is coming, but there's still incredible poverty due to the high growth and extremely large population. The religions, it's a mix of Buddhist, Hindu, and Islam, some Christianity as well, and Islam as well. But the primary religions would be Buddhism and Hinduism. The language, depending on who colonized these areas, and most of these places were colonized, it's often British, but there are over 30 languages spoken in this area. The largest, of course, is Hindi because India is the largest country in that area. But also, of course, we're including here Pakistan and Afghanistan, and those are Muslim countries, and some Buddhist countries off to the east. This is a little out of order here, but we're looking at Southeast Asia. So here's the map of Southeast Asia twice. Incredible diversity in Southeast Asia. You have, the rice-growing deltas of Thailand and Cambodia. Rice is the primary food in these areas. In really all of these areas, rice is commonly eaten. But notice that many island states, Indonesia is made up over thousands of islands, and so you have a great disconnect. Philippines as well, same way. So you've got a great diversity in these places. So when we look at it, you've got high population growth in most of the countries here. There are some more developed countries here we think about, like Singapore is a highly developed place, very small place at the tip of the Malay Peninsula. But you also, you've got some places that are that are developing, but for the most part, pretty poor. Main religions: Buddhism. As you move closer to sort of mainland Asia, this the connection, the part that is connected to the continent of Asia. Islam in Indonesia, the world's largest Islamic country, the most Islamic people in the world. They have the highest. The country with the most Islamic people in the world is Indonesia. That would be important to know. The lingua franca varies because you have so many different cultures here, and many different languages. In the Austronesian family, you have Malay and various Chinese dialects. This is a very diverse place. There's also a lot of animism and ethnic religions in these places, especially in the more remote places like New Guinea and places like the Javanese Islands in Indonesia. Southwest Asia and the Middle East, people often forget this is actually connected to Asia more than it is to anywhere else. And so, but it is kind of a bridge between Asia and uh, Africa. And so you have Turkey, which is a great cultural area and has a lot of influence in this area. You also have former Soviet republics like Georgia and Armenia. Those are Islamic places. Turkey, also an Islamic state. Iran, of course, Islamic. Much of this is Islamic, and we do have a few differences among them. You have moderate to high growth in places in the very developed oil-producing regions of the Middle East. Population growth is much lower than in other places. In some countries, you have, like the United Arab Emirates, you have more immigrants who are there on temporary visas working than you do actual citizens of the country. But a lot of the people in some of these countries are poor. When you start talking about Yemen and places like that, the poverty is much greater. When you talk about Saudi Arabia, the wealth is very high. So you have both more and less developed countries. Primarily Islam by a large amount, but you do have Israel, which is a Jewish state. Almost all the Jews in the Middle East are going to live in Israel, with pockets of Christianity and some other religions in places like Syria and Jordan. The primary languages are in the Afro-Asiatic family, which includes the Arabic branch and also the Altaic, which includes Turkish. But you also have Iran, which is Farsi. It's an Indo-European language, and some other cultures as well. So that will do it for the Middle East. And now let's look at these world regions. And now when you look at this map, you should be able to think about specific things that could apply if you were asked to describe or talk about religion, language, culture of these various places, economy, birth rate, and that sort of thing. So now you know. I hope you've enjoyed these short presentations.